let's get this roast a cooking. Woo! Season 3 kill count. Welcome to the Magnus Archive Season 3 kill count. I am having so much fun recording, editing, and doing these videos, and I hope that you guys are having fun as well, watching these videos as well. So, as always, I'm going to give a shout out to the channel that inspired this, the Dead Meat channel, hosted by James A. Janice and his own kill count videos. I love watching those videos. I love watching James A. Janice talk about horror movies and all the people that work in the Dead Meat channel. So shout out to them. They have greatly inspired everything I ever do here. So go check out their videos. Go check out the kill count series. Those are, well, better produced than what I got here, but we're making do with what we have. Yes, we are. I have not said so in the past videos, but it goes without saying, and I'll still say it here. Heavy spoiler territory going into each of these. I should have said that in the first two videos. I'm sorry about that, but heavy spoilers for the entirety of the Magnus Archives, not just the first 3 seasons, because I will be referencing and talking about things that happen in the future and stuff like that. So it really is like you have to know coming in that I'm gonna tell you some secrets. So for those of you who don't know, the Magnus Archives is a horror podcast produced by Rusty Quill, written by John Sims and directed by Alexander J. Newell. There's a bunch of other people that I want to talk about who work behind the scenes. Go check them out. If you are watching this video, you probably already have heard the Magnus Archives. So go, please listen to this podcast, support it, support the upcoming sequel, the Magnus Protocol, and also I'm looking forward to the TTRPG game that's coming out soon anyways. So Magnus Archives has been doing a lot, and I'm so happy, so much fun to do these videos as well. So first of all, as always, there are some rules to what I'm going to be counting and who I'm going to be counting. I might be breaking some of these rules later. We'll see. This is all loosey-goosey, okay? First, I will only be counting important people who die, or people who are killed by important people. Yes, the slaughter carriage in Season 2 was an important person. We have to have seen or experienced their death in the moment, and it should not be backstory deaths, such as Trevor Herbert's mother and father, who I did not count in Season 1. There are people that are sort of backstory that I am counting because of the implications, or because of the ideas, or because they were important to the story. But people who were not important to the story, who died in the past, not going on the list. Sorry guys, sorry about it. Also note that in the first video of the kill count, I was noting the dates of when the people who died, and then as I started editing, it just got clunky. And so I didn't do it in the second video, and I will not be doing it in this third video. So, just so you know, just in case that's something that you were interested in, sorry. Now, Season 3, it gets into the bread and butter of the Magnus Archives. I think this is the most popular season. I've heard a lot of people talk about the things that happen in Season 3 more than anything, and there is a lot that happens in Season 3 that is very, very, very iconic. Because there is more of a center storyline for Season 3, a lot of things that are happening are going to be following that storyline, and that makes the season have a lot more of a focus than the prior seasons, which is why Season 3, I think, is very successful in what it does. Plus, we get our main character, John Sims, advancing his knowledge, learning a lot, progressing through the story in more active ways than Seasons 1 and 2. So we're going to see a lot of him going around, learning, talking to people, and that's the fun part. Because the more people he talks to, the more people he learns the story of, the more people die. And that's what I'm counting right now. So anyways, welcome to the Magnus Archive Season 3 kill count. We began with episode 81, A Guest from Mr. Spider. The first kill of the season is John's childhood bully. He doesn't even remember their name, unfortunately, but he just remembers that they were a bully, and they were eaten by Mr. Spider. They took John's book from his hand, the book that was a feast for a guest for Mr. Spider. And then they got eaten up by a spider. That could have been John. That could have been John. Also, that's when John was marked by the web, which when I first learned about all that, learning that this was when he got marked by the web, oh, so smart. So smart that this is the first episode. Number 2 through 4 comes from episode 82, The Eyewitnesses. First, we have 2 dead bodies who were killed by the crooked, cut-up figure that Daisy finds talking to Calvin Benchley in that, like, what was it? Like, an abandoned construction place? I forget what it was. And then number 4 is Calvin Benchley himself, who is killed by Alice Daisy Tonner, who I'll just be calling Daisy because that's what everyone calls her, but I will be saying Daisy. I will be writing Alice Daisy Tonner. So number 5 comes from episode 83, Drawing a Blank. We have Lana Del Rey, Lana Billings, who was killed by Nikola Orsanov. She was the manager in that store who I think she got skinned by Nikola Orsanov in that apartment store. Where did Nikola Orsanov come from? I don't know. But rip at Lana Del Rey. Number 6 comes from episode 84, Possessive. We have Margaret Carnegie, who was the corruption lady who was in that what do you call that? The dump. Who was found dead by, I forgot the boy's name, the boy who took up her dump, but he found her, and they said that her lungs were full of newspaper pulp, which is disgusting, par for the course. And this is the first statement read out by Martin K. Blackwood, Martin the soft boy. I don't talk about him enough, honestly. I don't talk about a lot of the characters enough, and I think I talk about Martin less. I enjoy Martin a lot. So, this is his first episode, and we will be seeing more of him. Episode 85, Upon the Stair. This is the... Oh, how's it go? Antagonist? Upon the stairs was a man who wasn't there. Oh, I wish he wasn't there. Something like that. No one died here that I can officially count. There was the mention of the father, I think, of the statement giver being killed by the statement giver. But it was very weird because then he walked away. So it's all too weird to, like, definitely count. I can't really... Oh, should I? I'm not going to count the man who became the man who wasn't there. Because he's still... I don't know. It's weird. It's too weird to count. So no one dies in this episode. Number 7 through 8 come from episode 86, Tucked In. First, we have Robin Patton, who was killed by the dark monster that appeared from the brackish water. I don't care what the wiki says. I don't care what other people are thinking. This is the Still and Lightless Beast. This is the Still and Lightless Beast because we get a description here of what the monster is, but no name for it. And then we also get in the Julia Montauk statement, A Father's Love, we get a name, the Still and Lightless Beast, but no description. And whenever we are talking about the Still and Lightless Beast, we don't even get a description of what it is, but we don't get a name for this black blob thing. So this is the Still and Lightless Beast. To me, that's official. So yes. And then number 8 is Benjamin Hattendi, the statement giver for that episode, who was also killed by the Still and Lightless Beast. The way that he was killed, I think it was like burned or something. That was weird. But a lot of people are really afraid of this episode. This episode was really terrifying. Not to me. Not to me. It was good. I didn't really find that scary. It felt creepypasta-ish, maybe, in a way. What do you guys think? I don't know. But yeah, this is a good episode at least. And that was the Still and Lightless Beast. Episode 87, The Uncanny Valley. No one dies here. Sebastian Skinner. It's alluded to that he might die or whatever. Like Gertrude says that whenever the unknowing occurs, that one of the dancers will be wearing his skin, which is a great visual, Gertrude. Thank you for caring about a human being. But I don't know if he actually did. So I'm not counting him. So no one dies in this episode. Numbers 9 and 10 come from episode 88, Dig. First, we have the bookseller who was killed by Enrique Macmillan. This was when he said that he went to the bookseller because he found the book and he was like trying to figure stuff out. The book that made him dig.
And he said that, like, I dug into him. And that was like, what does that mean, sir? Obviously that means he, like, into his body. So I'm counting the bookseller, and there is pronouns, so it's a male. And then we have number 10, Enrique Macmillan himself, who died from asphyxiation in prison, I believe. He died from choking. He died from having no air. Too close, I cannot breathe. Numbers 11 through 13 come from episode 89, Twice as Bright. First, we have Nicholas Trekenzo, who is killed by Jude Perry. She was an investment banker or something like that, and she killed him because she hated him. Not even, I don't know, it was, the way that she killed him was very much like, ahaha, I'm crazy, but I'm free. And then she killed Julie Trekenzo, his wife, and she's been keeping an eye on the son, but we don't know if he actually died or not. But yes, both of them were killed by Jude Perry. And then Jude Perry herself, her first death, she doused herself in petrol and then set herself aflame. This was her transition to becoming an Avatar of the Desolation, and so this would be her first death. Episode 90, Bodybuilder, another Martin episode, where we have the gym with Jared Hopworth. He was really doing a lot of charity work for people who did not like their bodies. No one dies here, so we only see, like, the bodies of people, and the statement giver declines to give a follow back, and the woman that the statement giver, like, mentioned, I forget her name, she disappeared, but it felt in more of a way that she ran away, or, like, just dropped out of the whole, like, place. So that sounds more like she was voluntary, and she's now an Avatar of the Flesh as well. But no one died here. Numbers 14 through 16, we have from episode 91, The Coming Storm. First, we have Mr. Crew and Mrs. Crew, Mike Crew's parents, who were killed by Mike Crew himself. It was an accident in a way, because he found a Leitner book that was about the corruption, and the rot brought the house down on them, and so they died from that. I will be counting them as killed by Mike Crew, because he kind of was like, yeah, they died, oopsie. And then number 16 is Mike Crew himself, who was killed by Daisy, which I think that Mike Crew, this is episode 90 out of a total of 200 episodes, and this is where Mike Crew dies, and I just feel like we could have used Mike Crew a lot more. I don't know if he would have been good for the story, but I think I wish we had used him more. He's barely mentioned in the future. Like, Jonah Magnus gives Mike Crew one mention in the season 4 finale, and that's it. I feel like Mike Crew was almost like wasted potential. I mean, he barely got any kills that I could really count. I really want to see more of this Vast man, especially because I like the Vast, and we don't really get that many avatars of the Vast besides Simon Fairchild, and he's just a bastard, so I just think that my crew, not wasted potential, but we could have had so much more. Number 17 come from episode 92, Nothing Beside Remains. This is it starts off with Elias / Jonah, reading a letter sent by Barnabas Bennett, talking about how, oh my god, help me, please, Jonah, Mordecai Lucas hates me, and I think he's, like, disappearing or something. I forget exactly how he dies, but he's killed by Mordecai Lucas. And then we get into, like, story stuff, and I'm still not sure why Elias was reading that letter, but we got a death there. So numbers 18 through 20 come from episode 93, Contaminant. I will be counting Danny Russell and Sandra Russell, who died from a rare genetic disease. Even though it is sort of backstory, it still happened within the statement, kind of, in a way. And also, because it's a corruption statement, it's talking about sickness and stuff, it feels sort of like it's trying to set up the corruption stuff. So, and then we have Greg Russell himself, who was the father of Danny and wife of Sandra, I believe, or whatever. And
He died by purple rot. He was being consumed by purple rot, which is, Episode 94, Dead Woman Walking. No one dies here because there's no, like, definite explanation as to what happens to the people whom that dead woman talks to. They say, like, Georgie says they disappear. She never sees her friend again, or whatever. Doesn't feel like they died, because Georgie survived, but that's because she covered her ears, which feels like a cop-out in a way, and it's like, yeah, they disappeared, but we don't actually get, like, they could be just, like, in a coma or something like that. There's no confirmations, so I'm not counting anyone who died here. And the dead woman was already dead, and I'm not going to count that, because that's stupid. Numbers 21 through 24 come from episode 95, Absent Without Leave. This is a slaughter episode, and I was really excited because there's going to be a lot more, but then trying to read it through, it's really hard to discern individuals who died. We get implications of people who died, but no exact numbers, unfortunately. So first we have an unnamed woman, the woman who, like, saw the, like, soldiers coming up the Italian mountain, and she's like, I'm gonna kill you. And she's shot by Antonio Cannavaro. We also get Alfredo, who was shot by the deserters. He was the first person who was shot by the deserters. And then there's a bunch of dial text of, like, every once in a while the deserters shoot someone and one of us dies, but we don't get an exact number or who or what, so I can't count any of those at all. The next person we have is Antonio Cannavaro, who jumps off a cliff. Why? I don't know, he was just scared. And then we have the deserter, who was killed by a firing squad that we didn't see. But the deserter died, so we're going to count him. Number 25 and 26 come from episode 96, Return to Sender. We have Alfred Brecken, who was the original person. Well, not even original, because they didn't even, like, replace him. They just took his spot. But he was the person who ran Brecken and Hope, or Brecken and Sons, I think it was, something like that. And then changed to Brecken and Hope or whatever. Oh, he wanted it to be Brecken and the Sons, but changed it to Brecken and Hope because he didn't have any family. And then the monsters that we know to be Brecken and Hope right now appear, take his name, kick him out, and they kill him. In a weird way, John says that he finds him and the bite wounds come from inside, ? And then we also have Daniel Rawlings, who was killed by Gertrude Robinson. This is his second death. This was the mannequin figure. If you remember, for all the way from season 1, the first episode, the anglerfish, Daniel Rawlings was one of the people that was taken. And so this is his second death. And he was killed by Gertrude Robinson. This was mentioned by, who was it? Sarah Baldwin, who John and Daisy found in the location. And Sarah mentions that Gertrude killed Daniel Rawlings to get the skin, the gorilla skin. When I was counting, this was a big surprise for me, and I was like, oh my god, we got a Gertrude kill! So we're putting Daniel on the list. Numbers 27 through 29 come from episode 97, We All Ignore the Pit. First of all, the Sunken Sky ritual, really fun to learn all that. We have an unnamed young woman whom the statement giver saw in the pit, and then she got, like, sucked in. 28, I'm gonna count Thomas Kursek, something like that, who was the statement giver's friend, roommate. We don't actually see him being consumed, but we know that all of the town got consumed by the sunken sky, the earthquake. So I'm gonna count him because we saw him in person, and he was named and stuff like that, and it was suggested. So wish I could count more people who died in there, but we didn't really get any, like, individuals or stuff like that. We did get that buried avatar who spit the dirt at the foot of the statement giver, but I don't know if he was, like, he died in the sunken sky or if he was, like, guiding stuff, so he stayed outside of that death or whatever, and I don't know if he died from the disruption of the ritual, so I can't really count him either. So those are the only two people from the actual sunken sky that I can count. Also,
I am not counting Young Kilbride here because even though we see Young Kilbride crying and Gertrude Robinson, we don't even get a description of like what he's doing there. We just see the statement giver be like, yeah, there was that guy and an old woman, and that's it. And so I'm not counting Young Kilbride here yet. Hint, hint, wink, wink. And then number 29. Ooh, we have Gregor Orsanov, because remember, this episode is where Nicola Orsanov appears, and she's like, hello, John! That hurt me. And she says that she killed Gregor Orsanov because she got bored of him, and she's a monster, which is so fun. And even though this is sort of like backstory, Gregor Orsanov was really important to the Unknowing storyline. Same reason why I counted Nikolai Denikin in the first season, episode 25. So he's going on the list as well, killed by Nicola Orsanov. Episode 98, Lights Out. The Sandman comes and removes someone's eyesight. Maxwell Rayner's there. I don't believe anyone dies here, so I didn't count anyone. Numbers 30 and 31 come from episode 99, Dust to Dust. This is really fun because we All Ignore the Pit the 2 episodes prior, and now we have sort of like the build-up of that. We have Gertrude Robinson talking about her research to look for the sunken sky, and then we have her disrupting it in We All Ignore the Pit, even though we don't really know that. If you're listening to this for the first time, those two, although they're the buried and they're in America, it's really hard to really connect what it is. In retrospect, they're both really well connected, and so that's really fun to listen to after the fact. So the kills. We have Stefan Brotchen, who was suffocated from the Dust Bowl. He was a farmer in the Dust Bowl that the statement giver and Harry Eisenhard went to speak to, and then Harry Eisenhard also is added to the list, who was killed by Stefan Brotchen, who, it was really cool because Stefan Brotchen, it was mentioned that he died, and then I knew he died, and then he spoke. And that was so cool. The way that it was written, I don't really remember exactly how it was written, but though I remember that it was written really well. And the subsequent disappearance of Harry Eisenhard is his death, because we couldn't find him anywhere else. We did find Stefan Brotchen, though, his body, later, or the statement giver did at least. So, yeah, that's just some really good writing in this episode. Number 32 comes from episode 100. I Guess You Had to Be There. I love this episode. Very jokey episode. We have Brian Finlinson, who was one of the 4 or 5 people that came to the Institute trying to be like, hey, something weird happened to me, but John wasn't there, so they all their segments were incoherent. He was killed by Peter Lucas because I think this is the guy who's speaking to either Basir or Melanie, and then they leave to get something, and he stays there, and then Peter Lucas appears, and then sends him away. Goodbye. He, in the same way that the people who are sent away to different locations are good as dead for me, this is one of them. Numbers 33 through 36 come from episode 101, Another Twist. Very important episode. We have Michael Distortion's storyline telling and then completion, and then the beginning of someone else. Ooh. First, we have Michael Shelley, who was killed by Gertrude Robinson. She sacrificed him to be able to stop the great twisting from happening. A lot of complex sort of things there, like the life of one for the life of many type things, blah, blah, blah. Really sad, though. Really tragic. Gertrude. Hard-ass bitch. Then we have number 34, Worker of Clay, who tore out his veins after the feeling of the great twisting. Something crimson mud. He didn't want to deal with all that after the failing. He was like, that's all my life's work. I'm gonna die. So he does. And then we have number 35, Michael Distortion, who is killed by Helen Distortion. He's going to take John through the door to kill him in a lot easier way than a stranger would. And so he goes to the door and it's locked. And John's like, well, you try opening it. And so Michael does, and he's like, oh no. And then the most horrifying scream happens, and the door opens and Helen's there. I'm saying that she killed him. And in that same vein,
Helen Richardson was killed by Helen Distortion. Don't try to think about it too much. But those two are going to be on account for Helen. And then we have Helen here, Helen Distortion. I like her more than Michael Distortion. Mostly because she's a lot more in season 4 and I love season 4. So, looking forward to her kills. Number 37 comes from episode 102, Nesting Instinct. Benoit Masson, who was killed by his petite scarabée. This was also the statement that was all in French, and John was like, oh, it's all in French. Really fun. Number 38 comes from episode 103, Cruelty Free. We have Angus Dale, who was a clown, who was eaten by the flesh pig, the evil pig, the big evil flesh pig. One pig, two pig, something along those lines. Iconic episode. Not to me. I hate that pig. Number 39 comes from episode 104, Sneak Preview. We have Danny Stoker, Tim Stoker's brother, who was killed by Nikola Orshinov, who at that time was someone else, I believe. Grimaldi, Joseph Grimaldi. But I'm saying it was Nikola Orshinov because it's the same person. So, yeah, this is where the Nikola Orshinov is like, / Joseph Grimaldi goes and pulls off his skin or something like that. Danny is dead. And this is really important to Tim's storyline and for bringing Tim into the storyline as well. Numbers 40 through 42 come from episode 105, Total War. It's like, this episode has a lot of deaths. However, not many that I can count. Because I'm not going to count the throngs of people in the river that the statement giver walks through. And I'm not going to count the dead that follow. Because we don't get an exact number, we don't get any individuals. So I can't really count any of them. The only people I can count are the tall man, the limping man, and the infected arm man, who were the people that tried to kidnap / ransom off the statement giver, and they were all killed by the dead who follow. So, I really wish I could count a lot more, but some of the those deaths are a part of the war, historical war, and not part of the story, the statement, so I'm kind of glad that I'm going to have to really count them. It's only the ones that, matter to the story, so that's why it's only 3 people for this slaughter episode. Number 43 comes from episode 106, A Matter of Perspective. This is where we got Jan Kilbride and his sort of vast experience in space with the Daedalus. I really like, in retrospect, how Manuela said that Jan was just stupid. And it's kind of alluded to in here, in a way. But yes, no one dies in this episode except at the very end, we have Elias telling Melanie how her father died in the old people home that we had seen in Taken Ill. I'm going to count that they were killed by John Amherst. I believe it was that he died in the fire, but I prefer to count him as John Amherst because he was dying anyways. So, John Amherst killed him. 44 and 45 come from 107, Third Degree. We have Kelly Dwyer and Vihan Prasad, who were killed by Officer Sands. This was the one where they were, in an airport or something like that? And they encountered a trolley car that was burning, and it was just the fire and stuff. I can count those two. I think there are other people that died in that trolley car, but can't count those at all. Episode 108, Monologue. No one really dies in here. We get the guy being an actor and him being only ever seeing the masked figure. And it's a really fun episode, and we get Martin talking to Peter Lucas, which is also it sets up a lot for season 4. But no one dies here. Numbers 46 through 50 come from episode 109, Nightfall. First, we have Varden Darvish, who was killed by Julia Montauk. Then we have the DKN workers, 3 of them, who were killed by Julia Montauk as well. And then we have a man on the table who was killed by Varden Darvish. I remember I was trying to count these, and it was kind of hard trying to figure out, should I count Julia Montauk or Trevor Herbert? Because some of those were iffy, but because a lot of the deaths happened after Julia Montauk said something or did something, then they were all killed by her. Numbers 51 through 57 come from episode 110, Creature Feature. Now, some of these counting and some of these kills are going to be kind of iffy, so we're going to walk through some of them. First, we have Dexter Banks, who was killed by Neil Ligorio. This was sort of in a way of Neil Ligorio never really appeared in the statement. We see him later in season 4. We know he's doing stuff with the web. We know that Neil Ligorio is connected to Annabelle Kane, but she doesn't appear here. I just like Annabelle Kane a lot, so I'm going to mention her. But Dexter Banks was killed by Neil Ligorio, and then he was being, I don't know, puppeted, or he became an avatar or something like that. Whatever. We have Dexter Banks on the list. Next, we know that I think it was 100 cast members become missing. However, I know that I counted the projectors in Thought for the Day, who went missing as killed by Annabelle Kane. I cannot count 100 people here. I just can't. That's insane. That's too much, and that is implying a lot more. However, we get one actor's name, Brandon Omar, who was part of that missing group of people. So because he's named, I'm going to count him as dead. Because it's implied that all 100 people are dead, but I can't count all 100 people dead. You understand? That's just, I can't do that. We do get the 5 shriveled husks, and one of them was identified as Chadwick Fraser. So we can put 6 people on the list right now. If I put the 95 people missing, that's gonna inflate the count in a way that I don't like, because they're all unknown in terms of their gender, and that's not as fun. So we're only counting those people. Number 58 and 59 come from episode 111, Family Business. First, we have Jared Key. We got the description of him dying from brain tumor. I believe we got mentions of his deaths prior by John doing his investigation and stuff like that. But this is like the time where his death actually was mentioned. And then we get to talk to him, which is really cool there. But yes, this is his first death. And then we have Mary Key, who was killed by Gertrude Robinson. Gertrude took her page and burned it. This is her second death. If you remember, the first death was when she was doing her Book of the Dead stuff. This is her second death because Gertrude burned her page. And then we don't see Mary Key ever again. Good, because she was a menace. Numbers 60 through 65 come from episode 112, Thrill of the Chase. It's going to take these a little bit slow. We have Man in the Mask, who was killed by Ananya Kaleka. He was the man who appeared at the murder club, and he tried killing them, and they killed him. And then all hell breaks loose. We have Jamie Sanders, who was killed by Debbie Truss. We have Evelyn Kalenka, who was killed by Lisa Carmel. We have Debbie Truss, who was killed by Andrew Cochrane. And then we have Andrew Cochrane, who was killed by Ananya Kaleka. And Lisa Carmel, who was killed by Ananya Kaleka as well. And then Anya Kaleka herself, who died from unknown causes in prison. I believe Andrew Cochrane's death was not shown in the statement. However, Lisa Carmel was killed by Ananya Kaleka, and then Ananya Kaleka went to jail. And it was mentioned that she was the only one who survived. So I'm just going to assume that Andrew was killed by Ananya Kaleka. It doesn't really matter. But since we get all of those names, I will want to count them. That's a lot of fun. It was really fun to count all of these and try to see who goes when and where. Number 67 through 73 come from episode 113, Breathing Room. We have 3 carbon monoxide victims who were killed by Justin Go. They were in separate time periods, and this is what caught Adelaide Decker onto what he was doing. We have Justin Go's first death by suffocation. What was it? Carbon monoxide suffocation in the little tent. And then he made a deal with the end to kill other people. And so he started doing stuff. And then we have the Hackney Wick Man, who was killed by Justin Go as Adelaide Decker was sneaking into the room. Justin Go was killed by Adelaide Decker for the second time. I know Adelaide Decker says that he's not strong enough to kill the only people strong enough to kill avatars are other avatars, but he stuck a rod up his eye. That man died at least, and then came back to life because he's part of the end. Because we also know that he got better because
it's mentioned that there was a handful of people who died at the care facility that he was at. I'm only going to count one of them because there's at least one. I don't get an exact count, but because we know that people died because of him, I'm going to count at least one care facility staff, which I don't really like as much. I also wish that he stayed dead. Like, Adler Decker would be so cool if he was able to kill someone perma. Episode 114, Cracked Foundation. A woman, I forget her name, goes to Hilltop Road and then is taken to an alternate dimension, alternate universe. You know, starting to like talk about Hilltop Road and other dimensions and alluding to what might happen in season 5. No one dies here. Moving on. 74 through 76 come from episode 115, Taking Stock. The cook, who was killed by Michael Salesa. The cook who found the meat grinder and was doing weird stuff. I forget exactly, like, because he wasn't putting his hand in the meat grinder, but the meat grinder was doing something. Anyways, he was killed by Michael Salesa. And then we have a mention of a rich Canadian that Michael Salesa killed through, like, some trade things that he does. It was detailed, and we got, like, a date as well. So I'm counting the rich Canadian. And then later in that episode, we have Helen appearing, who shows up to John. She's like, "Hi, I just killed someone. Can you make me feel better?" And John's like, "Get out!" So we're counting the unnamed man who was killed by Helen Distortion. Number 77 through 79 come from episode 116, The Show Must Go On. This is my favorite episode of season 3. This is the Gertrude episode where she's talking about the first, or one of the first, attempts at the unknowing. We have these kills are kind of weird in a way, so we're going to take a little bit with a grain of salt. First, we have the man inside the Turk, who was killed by the mechanical Turk. We know that people go in, you have to be able to work the mechanical Turk, you have to go inside the mechanism. And in the unknowing, the mechanical Turk takes a sword and stabs it through the chessboard, and you see blood coming out. That implies to me that there's someone inside there. So I'm going to say there's a man inside the Turk. There were 2 moments in the unknowing shuffle where the statement giver mentions hurting someone. Abraham Jansen turns to the person next to him, who's like and he mentioned that they're made of wood or whatever, and he like beats them, and then his eyesight is filled with cherry wine or something like that. That to me implies that he beats the person next to him to death and that's blood. However, I don't know if it's an automaton or a person. I'm gonna say it's an automaton because it was metal, and maybe it was blood from his own hands or something like that. It was weird. And then later he gets out of the seat and goes, and there's someone who begs him to free him, and then he takes their heart and tosses it to the void. That feels like an automaton in a way. I don't know. I can only really count one of them because they're so weird in how the description of what's happening. So I can only really count one automaton in that, because the other one may have been human or may have not. I don't know. It's weird. So I'm only gonna count one. And then we have the mechanical Turk itself, who was killed by the slaughter soldier who appeared with the it was a tree with a mouth that hated the Turk. And I like that a lot, the description a lot. And yeah, he was, that thing, the mechanical Turk, monster, was killed by the slaughter soldier. Number 80 comes from 117, Testament. We have Jared Key, his second death, who's killed by John Sims. First time on the list, he will be appearing more on the list. It feels kind of weird to say that John killed him, but he set him free, he burned the page, and it was really like a touching moment for John to be like, the eye wants me to keep it, but I have to push through, and he does, and he kills Jared Key and lets him rest, and that is really nice to witness. Episode 118, The Masquerade. This is where John, Daisy, Basira, and Tim go to the unknowing to try to stop it. They're like setting stuff up. We also have Martin and Melanie doing stuff in the Institute with Elias. A lot of characters right now. Not a lot of action happens. A lot of setting up and stuff like that for the next episode. We don't see anyone die here. We do get to see the victims of the anglerfish
that are skinned the choir. It's kind of weird, but I already counted a lot of the Angler's victims in the first episode, and that's fine with me. No one dies in this episode. Numbers 81 through 85 are the last kills of the season. First, 81, we have Hope, who is killed by Daisy. This is where Daisy attacks Breakin and Hope, and she kills Hope and leaves Breakin alone. Breakin tosses Daisy into the coffin, and everyone thinks that she dies. But she's not there, so I'm not counting her yet. And then, all at the same time, 82, 83, 84, 85, all killed by Timothy Stoker. First, we have Nicola Orsanov, who... iconic clown lady, iconic voice actress, iconic all around. Because we know Sarah Baldwin is there as well, I'm going to count Sarah Baldwin. And I'm also going to count the anglerfish because anglerfish was also there because it was with the victims are anglerfish. So I'm also going to count the anglerfish there because he doesn't appear anywhere else either. And last kill, 85. Timothy Stoker, killed by himself because he exploded. Which, it really sucks to see Tim go. I think his entire build-up of the character in all throughout season 3 was really fun to witness. And there was a Q&A where Johnny Sims said that he really wanted death to matter in this series, despite all the Avatar deaths, but we're not going to touch into that. But death matters in this series, and we needed someone to die. And it was going to be, well, first he had planned it to be Sasha going all this way and Tim being replaced, but then like scheduling conflicts with the actors and stuff like that, so they had to switch, and we get Tim's like culmination of his storyline, and it is really great that he got to end the unknowing. And just to continue it, episode 120, Eye Contact, my least favorite episode of the entire series. No one dies here. Elias/Jonah is just telling what John sees in his coma, and then he gets arrested. But the last person to die is Timothy Stoker, and that's what matters. For season 3, this is the total people killed and all people who killed people. So, we have a bunch of people who killed only one person. Notable within them are John Amherst, John Sims, and Peter Lucas. We have about 5 people who killed only 2 people. Notable within them is Jude Perry, Mikhail Salesa, and Mike Crew. We have 5 people who have 3 kills each, with Daisy, Gertrude, Helen, and Nicola. And then in the top 4, we have Julia Montauk and Timothy Stoker, who both killed 4 people. Justin Go, who killed 5 people, at least. And Dexter Banks, who killed 6 people. And this is the gender breakdown for season 3. In the minority, we have 6 monster kills. We have 13 unknown gender kills, 17 females killed, and we have a whopping 49 males killed in season 3. As mentioned prior, I will also be updating the full list of people killed and their genders as well. So here we have the total killed between seasons 1 through 3. As I said prior, I will be cutting off at 3 kills for this season. So we have at the top 3 the same as season 2, Robert Montauk at number 1, Annabelle Kane with number 2, and then Grifter's Bone at number 3. Some people that appear now on the list are Daisy, Helen Distortion, Nicola Orsanov, Julia Montauk. My Crew got a bunch of kills, and that's all he's gonna get. Timothy Stoker, Gertrude Robinson, Dexter Banks, and John Amherst are all creeping up towards it, but we still have the same leaderboard as before. And this is the gender breakdown so far from seasons 1 to 3. It looks very similar to the last gender breakdowns of season 2. We have 47 female, 133 male, 10 monsters now, and 112 unknown. Alright, thank you very much for watching this video and watching this kill count for season 3. As I said, a lot of fun to make these videos. I already made kill counts for season 1 and 2, so go check those out. I am really proud of them, and also look forward to seasons 4 and 5. Those, I feel I'm going to have a lot more fun. I like fun. Fun is nice. I'm also looking forward to the future projects that I have listed up and planned. So keep an eye out for those. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share with your friends, share with people that enjoy the Magnus Archives. I will eventually start doing stuff other than Magnus Archives, but for right now, this is the one thing that's consuming my mind. So, thank you very much for watching.